Hold up, this stuff is pagan. The first book of John, chapter 3, verse 18. My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. All right, bowing down on one knee, making your wife an idol, all right, and giving her some pagan ring and to symbolize your commitment unto her and seal the marriage. It's not loving in deed and it's not loving in truth, because 90% of men that do that afterward, they're not going to teach their wife the actual truth of the scriptures and help lead her to the kingdom. They're actually going to lead her to the lake of fire. So back to 1 John chapter 3, verse 18, it says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue. All right. So giving your, hey baby, I love you, please marry me. You're getting on one knee, here's my commitment. I love you forever. And you're smiling and cheesing and all of this and that. That's not loving in that's love. That's just simply loving in tongue. All right. That's not action or deed. The letter to the church at Ephesus, or some say Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Hamashiach, or some say Christ, also loved the church, and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing by the word. All right. So these men that bow on one knee and give the woman the ring and all of that, they don't wash their wives with the word. They got their wives still going out to the club, celebrating these pagan hell days. Got a bunch of white women friends, you understand? And when they go to the club, they go hang with their friends, but they go dance with other men and parlay with other men. When you find out about it, when the news is get back to you, right, you crying at home. All right, because you done made this commitment built on a false pretense based off a ring and you bowing. All right. So essentially, you never washed your wife with the word. She's still living like the 98% of the rest of the world as Christians, living the worldly, rebellious Christian life. All right. So the getting down on the one knee and giving of the ring did nothing. All right. The book of Joshua, chapter 5, verse 13. And it came to pass, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, art thou for us or for our adversaries? And he said, nay, but as a captain of the host of the Most High am I now come, or some say Lord. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, what saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Most High's host said unto Joshua, loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. All right. So men today will do what they're supposed to do to, in this case, this was Yeshua HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus in the spirit, coming in as in the form of a man, right? Because he said he's the captain of the host of the Most High, the armies of heaven, right? So essentially, today men will bow on a knee or bow to a woman, right, and worship a woman and idolize their wife. But in the scriptures, we're supposed to bow and exalt the host of heaven, the host of heaven, and of course God being plural, Elohim means the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. All right, we're only supposed to bow and worship the Most High. All right, not a woman. But today, Negroes will take off the shoe off their feet, right, and bow and break out that ring and essentially worship a woman. All right, that's sin. And the ring seals the deal of the sin and makes it a perpetual sin. You understand? Now let's prove Israelite women were never given rings for marriage. All right, a ring to go on their finger. They never wore rings on their finger, but they did wear a ring in their nose as a symbol of marriage. All right, let's prove that with the scriptures, and let's also prove that Israelite men only wore rings as a symbol of status, of rulership. The book of James, chapter 2, verse 1. My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, the Lord of glory, with respect to persons. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring, in goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say unto him, Sit thou here in a good place, and say unto the poor, Stand thou there, or sit under my footstool, are ye not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? All right, so clearly here through the context, we see that the man with the gold ring, he was held to a higher status. All right, because people who are men who wore rings had a status. All right, it was a symbol of status, whether it be you be a priest or an elder or some type of ruler in the community. Not saying you would always wear a ring, but generally those would be the ones who had the rings on because they would have the extra wealth or luxury to purchase a ring. You understand? So men did wear rings, but it was a symbol of status. All right. It had nothing to do with marriage, and let's further prove it here. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 31, verse 50. I'm going to start at 49. And they said unto Moses, Thy servants have taken a sum of the men of war, which are under our charge, and there lacketh not one man among us, of us. All right. So these are men here, obviously. Let's keep reading. Verse 50. We have therefore brought an oblation for Ahiah, what every man have gotten of jewels of gold, chains, and bracelets, rings, earrings, and the tablets, to make an atonement for our souls before the Most High. All right. So yes, the men wore rings, but it had nothing to do with marriage. All right. And if you look at the word that was used there, it was Strong's 56 and 94, and it was agayal, or in the modern Hebrew, it's agayal, right? So, and it means round loop rings. All right, so it was the gold rings that cats were wearing in the 90s and the 80s, the gold loops. That's what the men wore. All right, and when it was talking about the rings, it was just a ring. All right, it had nothing to do with them being married. Let's get another precept to prove it. Genesis 41 and 41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. All right. So men only had rings or receive rings because of their status or the status in which they were going to receive. It had nothing to do with marriage. They wouldn't even hold a ring for marriage. All right. But let's actually go to the scriptures and see what men actually would give a woman when it came to marriage, or a gift, or a symbol of the marriage. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 24, verse 22. And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring off half a shekel's weight, two bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold. All right, so this is clearly here, this is Isaac, and he's giving this to Rebekah, our foremother. But when you read it, it says in the man, verse 22, it says, And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of half a shekel's weight. Now let's look this up in the Hebrew, and see if it says golden earring. So when you look it up in the Hebrew, it's Strong's 5141. And in the fake modern Hebrew, which is really Assyrian Aramaic, it's Nazim, but in the ancient Paleo, it's Nazam. And it literally means nose ring or jewelry. So when Isaac gave Rebekah earrings, as it's translated here in the English, because the earring and nose ring is very interchangeable in the scriptures, all right, when it comes to wording. But it says Nazam, Strong's 51:41, nose ring. Isaac gave Rebekah a nose ring, all right, and as a symbol of the marriage. Let's prove it with a precept. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 12. And I put a jewel on thy forehead and earrings in thine ears and a beautiful crown upon thy head. All right. So the Most High, this is the Most High speaking about the nation of Israel. All right. When he made us his chosen. Right. So when we look at this in verse 12, it says, and I put a jewel on thy forehead and an earring and earrings in thine ears and a beautiful crown upon thy neck, on thy head. Excuse me, not neck. So when it says that, when we look it up once again, and when we use context and reasoning, Israelite woman doesn't wear a crown on her head. All right. We have to look at this through ancient Hebrew idioms, right? Hermeneutics and logic. And when you look this up in the Strongs, it's the same thing. Nazam, it's the same Strong's numbers, 51:44. All right. And it's a nose ring because the nose is connected to the head. You understand? So when a nose ring is put in the nose, it's like a crown on a woman's head. And let's further prove that because a ring, which a diamond or certain jewels have crowns on them. All right. An ancient term is for the top face of the gemstone, whether stone it be, it's called the crown. All right. What is the crown of a gem? The crown is the upper portion of a gemstone that begins just above the girdle. All right. So gemstones have crowns. All right. So when a crown was put on her head, it was a gem. It was a jewel in her nose. The book of Genesis, chapter 24, verse 47. And I asked her and said, whose daughter art thou? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bare unto him. And I put the earring upon her face and the bracelets upon her hands. All right. So when Isaac gave earrings or rings, pierceable rings, logically said, to Rebekah, it was for her nose. All right. It was a symbol of the marriage, a gift for the marriage. All right. So when you look at this, it says that he put a earring upon her face. Now let's go through the parts of the face. You have the lips, you have the cheeks, you have the forehead, you have the nose. He didn't bore a ring through her lips. He didn't bore a ring through her cheek, and he didn't bore a ring through the middle of her forehead. All right. He gave her rings, nose rings for her nose because she is now his wife. We do not give rings for marriage. All right. That's a pagan, heathen, Egyptian, and fashioned by the Greeks and Romans custom. All right. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica. Ouroboros, which is an ancient symbol. Ouroboros, emblematic serpent of ancient Egypt and Greece, represented with its tail and its mouth continually devouring itself and being reborn from itself. All right. Because remember, the white man crawled out of caves. He didn't have any customs or traditions or anything like that. So he looks towards the Babylonians and the Sumerians and the Egyptians, and he sees this Ouroboros. Of course, the Grecians and the Romans keep that custom of that circle ring going. All right. And they got it from the Egyptians. It says, agnostic and alchemical symbol, Ouroboros expresses the unity of all things, material and spiritual. All right. Because remember, the Egyptians believe the circle represents eternity and nothing ending. That's why the serpent is devouring its own tail, going in a circle, basically, just like the ring. All right. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 18, verse 1. And Ahiah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Ahiah your power, or Alahayim, After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land in Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Ahiah, your power. All right, so we're supposed to keep the Most High's ordinances in His statutes and His laws and His commandments, not the Egyptians. All right, and one of their ordinances was giving a ring during marriage. All right, during certain dynasties, of course. All right, so if that's not our custom, leave it alone. If you got a ring, I'm not saying go throw it in the trash and waste money, but what you do, go take it to the pawn shop, take it back to the jeweler, whatever, get your money back, and then all praises to the Most High. All right, and that's all we can say. First and foremost, I want to say all praise to the Most High, Ahiah, once again, Bahasham Yeshah, Wa Rachak Wadash. All right, and let the scriptures and just let the facts be the determining factor if you want to do away with that ring or not. Because of course it's not a custom of ours, it's not a law, statute, or commandment. It's a tradition of man. Death to Babylon, always.